Welcome YouTube from Atlanta to Dallas Aviation. Today we have a non-unboxing video. We're going to compare the Gemini Jet's version of Imua One to the NG version of Imua One. Again, very low-tech video, and I only have really 30 minutes to do it in, so it's not going to be as thorough as I would like it to be, or that even you as the viewer might like it to be, but I'll do my best to hit what I think is important in considering these two. Again, if you are enjoying the content, my low-tech content, please consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. And also, if you have either one of these versions, I would love to hear or read your take on either version. And so with that said, we're going to go ahead and kind of dive into this now. Now what we have here, and let me get my little pointer here, my little toothpick pointer. Doggone it. All right, hopefully I won't be shaking too much in this video, but I'm sure I will be. All right, so this plane, this is the Gemini Jets version. This one over here, this is the NG version, and I'm going to try to keep it where the Gemini Jet 1 is to the left and the NG is going to be to the right. I'll do my best. If I change it, I'll let you know so you know what you're looking at. But the first thing I'd like to say about both of these is that neither Gemini nor NG models got their models looking like the model art on their boxes, and the art on the boxes for either box is more like what you would see if you looked at a picture of this aircraft on plane spotters or airliners.net or any of those internet pages where you can see pictures of the actual airplane. But the box art on both of these are closer to the right blend, if you will, than the actual models themselves. So I'm not going to show you that, but even the box art for both of these are a little bit different. But essentially, they capture the right amount of blending from one color to another, and even like what symbols are inside what colors. We'll get to that. I'll try to explain that a little better when we're looking at it. But anyway, so box art closer to the actual aircraft than these models are themselves. And I would also say that the models, if I didn't already say it, the models are not replicated like even like the box art that each company provided. So that's interesting. So what we have here is, I think you can already sort of tell. We're going to talk about the part that bothers me the most. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think it's generally accepted that the NG mold is just a little bit better. It's not like over the top better like a lot of their other molds are compared to Gemini. So Gemini easily could, if executing the liveries correctly or providing better details in their printing, and the fact that Gemini is licensed to put out Southwest livery aircraft models, and NG is not, at least as far as I know. I have not heard that NG has been licensed to do many of their airline outputs. So so you have that. So Gemini, with only a slightly inferior mold, should get the coloring and in how the livery is done on the real aircraft correct. So they have that advantage, and if I am correct, I do not know that this is a fact, so let me be very clear on that, but I believe when you're licensed, you have access to what the colors are for liveries, so you can replicate them to the best of that you possibly can. So Gemini Jets has that advantage, and so we will get to that part also. But on the NG side, you do know that the mold is a little bit better, and they're and usually they're printed. Their printing is good, as good as far as details are concerned. But we also know that NG also adds a little bit more by having the antenna on the bottom of the aircraft, where Gemini Jets does not do that, or at least they don't do it anymore. And even when they did do it, it was not necessarily all that accurate. So as you know, with 737s, I'm going to just do this real quick. 737s have these two antenna down here. Well, even when Gemini Jets had antenna on the bottom, they had the antenna here, the single antenna, the single antenna here, and then the one in the rear, they only did the one in the middle. They did not include the one that's kind of off to the side. But they stopped putting antenna at all on the bottom of the aircraft. So you get that little extra. But with this particular release, it's really more about the execution of the livery and getting the colors right and things like that. So I will say, and you see them right here, I will say that for the most part, the colors are spot on. Now, I think even you can probably tell that the NG, the red part for the NG, is a little darker than the red part on the Gemini Jets. That part doesn't bother me near as much as the stuff I'm about to point out. So I think you can clearly see on the screen that the blue, and we'll go all the way up to the tip all the way up at the cockpit windows. I think you can tell that there's a different shade here for both of these. Now, I have looked at the pictures and looked at the pictures and looked at the pictures, and somehow, some way, even without having license, it appears to me that this blue color is more correct. All right, so moving on to the next interesting thing. So here on the Gemini jets, it starts off as a darker blue, and it starts changing color about right here in the middle of these two flowers in this whole flower. Well, in the pictures of the real aircraft, there is not a discernible change of this color until you get to about the 5th window in the passenger window line. And I think I'm gonna get closer here. I think even on the screen you can kind of see that this blue color is changing before we even get to the 5th window. All right. On the NG, we have this color going through. Let me turn this a little bit more to the side here. You have window number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's 5, just to the right of this flower pattern here, and it's still pretty much the same blue up to there. However, after that point, there should be a more discernible change of color. Now, in the NG version, it starts turning purple, but the purple, as you can see here where the rowers are, the purple is really supposed to be noticeable on top of the head. So there should almost the arms here in the paddle, almost that whole thing should be nothing but purple, except for this very tiny corner here. We look over here, the Gemini Jets version, well, they got most of this right. However, the blue, there's no blue here. There should be blue right at the tip here where the rower's arm meets the oar. So their purple starts too soon and encompasses the entire rower. On the NG version, there's not enough purple in this portion. So neither company really got this right. All right, so so that's kind of disappointing. I mean, at least NG got this blue color right, and it went back far enough to be true to form, but the blue keeps going back too far. All right, so moving on to the other color that bothers me. All right, I think this will point it out a little bit. We can look at it. All right, Gemini kind of in the back, but still on the left. Where the turtles are, the turtles are supposed to be, I'm even going to, the turtles are even supposed to be, hopefully this will focus, I may be too close. Come on, focus for me. All right. So the box art is more correct. So the turtles are almost completely in orange. Even like the tips of their fins are just about where it's no longer orange. And this is correct on the box art. I'm showing you the Gemini Jets box art because it's a little bit easier to see since it's on the background of white rather than the more artistic one of NG. So as you can see, there's actually not a lot of discernible orange to begin with. So it should be much more orange here. But the other thing Gemini Jets did is they brought this weird, very faded color of orange almost to this line. Now we look at the NG. Still not extremely discernible, but I think you can see that it does start out a lot more orangey here and fades away, but it fades away too quickly. So part of the turtles, like the entire turtle fin, is in yellow, and that should not be the case. So again, neither company got this right. However, the other thing with the Gemini Jets is this weird orange, very light orange color continues on the bottom here. So as you, as you might be able to see, this orange doesn't change. So it goes all the way, and now the orange is in this part of this line. So that is not well done, and there's even a little bit of tinge of orange as you get to the star field. These are supposed to be stars. That's not supposed to happen. In the NG version, it's definitely yellow when we get to the star field. So at least that part is sort of right. All right, so moving on to other things, I'm going to go ahead and point this part out. So on the top of the aircraft, come on, focus for me. Well, all right, you're focusing too much back there. All right, so Wi-Fi dome. We got a decent color on the Wi-Fi dome, and I don't even know what shape the appropriate Wi-Fi dome is because these two shapes are different. But what NG did not do is on Southwest aircraft, even if it's normal livery, the Wi-Fi dome is surrounded by a white line, so it's outlined with white. So you can see this is not there. That line that you see there is just a reflection of light. There is no border for the Wi-Fi dome. However, and kudos to the Gemini Jets. Gemini Jets got this part right. So I don't know if you can quite tell. You should be able to see that the Wi-Fi dome is bordered by a white border. So Gemini Jets, kudos to you. You got that absolutely right. Next thing I want to kind of look at, and it's a little easier to see in person than it's going to be on camera, I got a feeling. And you might actually notice some other things that I'm not intending to point out here. But I think you can also see, wow, come on. All right, come on, focus for me. There we go. All right, I think you can also see that the bold blue on the tail here, this is, again, this is the NG, this is the Gemini jets. The bold blue here is certainly bolder, I guess. And unfortunately, ever since NG put out the new livery of jet blue, they've been using that jet blue as bold blue. Those two colors are not the same. The bold blue on Southwest is not the same color as whatever they named the blue on the newest jet blue livery, where most of the fuselage is blue. Those are not the same. NG, if you see this, the blue you were using prior to that is more correct. It was more like what we see here on the Gemini jets. It's more like this color. And I think you can see, especially on a bigger screen, that these colors are not the same. But I will say that this bold blue is not as wrong and dark as the NG models of the Heart livery Max 8. So the Max 8 in regular Heart livery that NG put out, that color is wrong. You need to go back to something that looks at least like this, and hopefully more like this. But as you can also see, these other colors are actually a little more vibrant on the NG. I'm not that worried about that. And you can also kind of see a difference in the mold here for the APU. I'm actually liking the Gemini Jets APU better. And I don't know if it's just because they painted more of it silver than NG did or not, but I'm kind of liking this better. So anyway, so I will say Gemini Jets wins on tail color and on APU painted stuff. All right, and then let's see. I want to make sure I still have a little bit of time, and I want to point out anything that I still think is, in my book, more important. I'm not here really to compare molds. I think you can kind of see that it appears that the Gemini Jets mold sits a little bit higher, at least on the tail. We'll turn these around to be nose to nose, because it looks like on the wing, they got the wing markings about the same on both of these models. Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah, I think the Gemini Jets at the nose even sits just a smidge higher. It's not easily, you can't tell it very easily, but it's just a smidge higher. But otherwise, I think as far as window placements, for the most part, that all looks good. But anyway, so most of the point of this video was to point out the difference in execution of the livery itself, and not about the mold in particular, but mostly about printing and in colors. So I was actually hoping that Gemini Jets, being the licensed player, was going to execute this on their not very slightly inferior mold, very slightly inferior. If they had gotten these colors right, I would probably actually be keeping the Gemini Jets mold, the Gemini Jets version of Imua One over the NG model. However, the things that they did seem to get right just isn't enough for me to keep it instead, and partly because I never intended on keeping both versions of this livery. And it's easier for me to sell, since who I'm going to sell it to is probably a coworker. It'll be easier for me to sell the Gemini Jets version than it will be to do the NG version, because if you remember, I work for Southwest Airlines, so even if I'm only selling it to get my money back, which I am in either case, I could potentially get grief about trying to sell the not licensed one versus the licensed one. And not only that, but the non-licensed one cost me more, like $3 more to acquire than the Gemini Jets one did. So so since the Gemini Jets one was not better done, it has its weaknesses too, I decided I'm just going to keep the NG model and sell to an unknown coworker to sell the Imua One by Gemini Jets. But anyway, this did allow me to be able to put this video together, and this is my third attempt. So I don't remember if I suggested, if you're liking the content, if you like this video, please consider leaving a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have either one of these releases and you would like to chime in, I would love to read your opinions in the comment section. So with that said, that concludes the video for today. So until the next video, happy collecting.